Good evening and welcome to Dementia Diaries, a caregiver's journey. I am Janet Williams and I'm your host. As some of you may know, that I started this podcast in honor of my mother. My mother had vascular dementia, and to keep her legacy going, I said I wanted to have a show where we can share content, suggestions, recommendations to others that are going through the caregiving of their loved one. So tonight I have a special guest with me, and her name is Phaadre Parker. We're going to bring her on screen. Hi, Phaedra. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Let's introduce yourself.
So, I'm Phaedre Parker. Um, I was a caregiver for 4.5 years until my mom passed. And I'm excited to get the opportunity to talk about the journey because it is a journey.
Awesome. Good. I don't think we can put any other word to that journey because there are
Yeah.
ups, there are mountains, valleys, straight roads, curved roads. You're going to hit them all when you're caregiving for your loved one. So, so tell us about your mother. How old was she when she passed? When did she get diagnosed? If you know those things.
Um, but why can't I think about how old she was when she passed? Um, she was 78 when she passed. And I think it was about 10 years that she had it ultimately.
Okay.
Um, I remember when she stopped calling me. I lived here in Florida and she was in Maryland, and we talked every day. And then she wasn't calling me every day,
Mm,
but she couldn't really remember phone numbers.
okay.
And then I remember going home for a holiday. We all went shopping and everything, and we dropped the bags in the house. And I had to go back to the store and get a couple of things, and then coming back and finding the turkey under the table,
Mm,
not in the refrigerator,
okay.
and um, her not remembering where she put things. And then I was living here, and then my sister started noticing that bills were not getting paid. Um, and she was overdrawing her account and all of those things. And that was the beginning. And then going to the house and just finding different things where she had just left things in places, food was going bad
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So my sister took her first.
Okay.
And she ended up, she lost her house,
Okay.
and she moved in with my sister in an apartment. And I just remember my sister having the issues with her not knowing where to go to the bathroom. And then it got to the point where she would walk out. She used to walk my granddaughter to school, my grandniece to school every day. And then she couldn't remember how to get back to the school
Mm,
to pick her up. And then it got to a point where she would go outside and wouldn't remember how to get back home. And my sister would be at work and come back, and mommy's still outside the house.
mm,
And they called the police because she had been out there all day. And that's when she came to me because I worked from home.
okay.
And that's where my part of the journey started.
Now, at this time when all of this was going on, did you all know at that time that she had dementia?
So my sister had gotten the exams done and everything. And They were talking about how her brain had shrunk
Mhm.
um, from the MRI. They could tell that from the MRI, and
Mhm.
they said that she had Alzheimer's dementia. They had put her on medication and everything. Um, that was so interesting because I noticed that when she took the medication, she wouldn't eat.
Mm.
She had no appetite, or she wouldn't even take the food on the medication. Once I stopped giving her the medication, she started eating.
Mhm.
It wasn't like the medication was going to change the situation. The doctor told me she was not ever going to go back to who she was.
Right.
So I would rather have her eating and gaining her weight and those kind of things than taking the medicine that's not going to really help her brain.
Mhm. I know, it seems very familiar with everyone that I've spoken with on the show. Everyone has really mentioned about how their loved one overspends their bank account, which is definitely truly a sign. I know with my mother, she had been with her bank for a long time. I mean, for a long time. So the tellers knew her, and I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe at one time my sister had took her bank card away from her and checks and stuff away from her, so she couldn't get money and stuff, write checks and so forth. But my mom would walk down to the bank, and they knew her, and they would just give her the money. She didn't have to show an ID, because one of the things we were asking was, how is she getting money and she doesn't have her, ID or anything of that nature? But the tellers knew her for so long and they knew who she was. So, she was able to get the funds. So we had to literally
Same
tell her,
situation.
don't give her no money.
Yes. Same situation.
Hmm. Hmm.
She could just walk right in.
So how long did she stay with your sister, and how long did she stay with you?
She was with so once my sister took her, it was about 3 years. And
Okay.
then I had her 4.5.
Okay. Okay. So, tell me, when you realized that she had dementia, how did you feel? What was your reaction to that?
Um, in the beginning, I didn't know how to feel. I don't think I really understood what it meant. I knew she was forgetting. I knew that she was repeating things, over and over and over and over again. Or you'd have a conversation with her and then you'd have the same conversation with her. And, but I don't think I realized the significance of it
Hmm.
um, until she stopped speaking. I think that's when it hit me the hardest because then it was no communication at all. I kind of, even if it was the same sentence, it was still something.
Hmm.
I think that's when I realized that I had truly lost her.
So what was the time period from the time she was speaking, repeating herself, to being quiet?
So for the time that I had her, I want to say it was year two.
Oh wow. Okay.
So the first year, we went through I remember everybody was down here and we were all in the kitchen. We had a cookout that day. All the whole family was here. Everybody had fixed their plates, and we were just doing all kinds of stuff. And we came back to get our plates, and mommy had gone around the whole kitchen and took a bite out of everybody's burger. And to this day, now that she's not here, that is like the one thing that we all remember.
Hmm.
And um, just funny things like that. But that was also around the time that she was very angry and agitated. And
And what did you do for those times, like when she was agitated? How did you handle that?
There were a number of times that I had to just woosah.
Hmm. Hmm.
I had, I came to have a conversation with her and she got angry with me and pushed me into the floor. And I had to get up. And my first reaction was
Hmm.
in front my husband, who I'm grateful for him to be here with me, had to be like, babe, walk away. Babe, walk away.
Hmm.
And I just had to go and get myself together and then remember that she's not the woman she was.
Exactly. I think that's hard for a lot of people to remember that your loved one is not the person that they used to be, and until you really get your head wrapped around the disease and how it causes your loved one to behave and react to certain things. It's very hard. It's very hard. I will say, so my mom, she was a walker. I mean, she was walking all the time. Only thing you wanted her to do was sit down because she'll walk back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And at one point we were scared that she would trip over her feet and fall or something. But she had got a blood clot, and when she got that blood clot, she became immobile, and she really didn't get up out after that time. But I tell everybody this: I would have never believed that my mother cursed. I mean, I'm telling you, no one could tell me that my mother cursed. Being the youngest of the seven children, I never really heard her. I know my mom in church. That's what I know, right? Woo! Yes. Hmm. She could, she could,
Right,
she could throw some things out there,
right,
and they were and strong. They would. She would lose the weight, getting small, but that strength. I was like, this doesn't fit.
right,
Because she could hit you and it'll hurt.
right.
No. And but yeah, and you got to pick up all the memories that make you laugh as much as possible. And some people probably say, well, how can you say this? This is what's going on. Yes, this is what's going on, but these are memories that's gonna stick with you forever. So there were a lot of moments with my mom where I will never forget. She Before she was bedridden, I can remember one time she wanted me to help her too. She said she had to go to the restroom, so I was walking her over to the restroom, and she had this finger with this crooked fingernail, and she stuck that fingernail in my side so deep. I always say, and I asked her. She said, "Yeah." She leave me alone. I said, "Well, you don't, not me, right?" So so there were a lot of moments like that as well. So tell me, how did your family members deal with the dementia?
It's interesting. The kids couldn't barely be be around because they kept wanting mommy, mommy back.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, they had a hard time seeing her as she was.
Hmm.
And the grandchildren, I had them every summer. So many summers they were down here while mommy was with me. First, when she was in the aggressive stage, I remember one time Jalen was walking past and she just hauled off and hit him. And Jalen got emotional and walked away. I think I was hurt more than he was.
Hmm.
But Adriana, my granddaughter, she wanted to help. She wanted to help feed her. She wanted to put her to bed at night and give her a kiss and, say goodnight to her and everything and get up and just hug her
Mhm.
and that kind of stuff. And I could see, and mommy would smile.
Okay.
You know, it was so, the journey was interesting because when my mother had her full consciousness,
Mhm.
she never thought my husband was good enough for me.
Mhm.
Once she was that way, he was her favorite person.
Hmm.
He would come in a room and she would light up.
Yeah.
But she would see me, I would get cussed out. I was the bad guy because for me, it took me a while to understand it. When she sees me, she sees all the things that I've got to do, like
Mm.
change the diapers, take her to the bathroom, do the showers, feed her the food. I'm the person that makes her do things that she doesn't want to do. And
Mhm.
he's the fun person. Because
Mhm.
when he comes in the room, it's like, hey, how you doing? With me, it's something else.
And that's interesting you say that because my mom was that way um with my husband, my brother-in-laws, and my brothers. She would just light up. She was the most proper, you know, well-behaved individual you could ever see. But when it came to the girls, and as you put it that way, I'm thinking that it probably was because we were the ones that were really taking her to the restroom, changing her, uh, you know, giving her bath and showers and feeding her and giving her medication. And, when she says that she's already taken her bath or shower and we have to say, no, you haven't, she probably saw us as that, I got to deal with these people today, you know, type of scenario.
Yep.
So, did you ever have an issue with your mom wanting to take a shower or bath? Did she ever
My
come to
mother
you
didn't like taking a shower and a bath when she had her senses. So it was a real difficult time when she didn't. When my mother was a young girl, she almost had a drowning accident.
Okay.
So she did a lot of bird baths.
Hmm.
She
Hmm.
didn't do a lot of showers and everything.
Okay.
And here, you got to take a shower. I'm not going to bird bath you. We're going to get in the shower.
Hmm.
And you need your hair washed.
Hmm.
And she also had, her hands were contracted.
Okay.
So I had to clean her hands.
Hmm.
I found these things called taco shells, and they were
Huh.
soft padded things that you put in the hand
Hmm.
that wrapped. It had Velcro around the back to keep her hands from closing up so much, so that she wouldn't get fungus in the inside the fingers.
Okay.
So, and once a week, I would take the clamshells out and I would use antifungal on her fingernails,
Hmm.
and I would clean her hands out real good. And
Okay.
then I put her clamshell back. I mean, taco shell. They call them taco shells. I
Okay.
put it back to provide padding so that her nails wouldn't cut her hands.
Hmm. Okay.
Um,
That's interesting. I know with my mom when she was in the bed, she always had to like pick with something, you know. So we gave her. She had a actually I have the blanket. It's like a little a knitted blanket, half blanket. And she would just, as long as she had that, she was fine. Her hands would be fine. She would just pick at that. But if you did, if you moved that, then she would be picking at everything. So, but a taco shell, I had never heard of that before. So I'm gonna find that and share it on my Facebook page so people can see what that is. Now, how was it with washing her hair? I know my mom. I found out one thing with her. She loved her head to be massaged. And anytime with me, when once I figured it, it took me a while. Once she got, a little aggravated or whatever, I would just go up and rub her head and just massage it, and she would just like zone on out. So that was like a safety thing for me to keep her calm and quiet. How did your mom deal with washing of the hair?
So I ended up getting a cone thing. It was like a plastic Velcro thing, so that
Hmm.
we could put the water in her hair and it would go down the back, so it wouldn't get in her face,
Hmm.
because then she would get afraid,
Okay.
So the plastic would cover here and then go around, and we could wash her hair.
Okay.
And I watched one of your other episodes where the lady was talking about having all the paperwork prepared in advance and all of
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. Well, we didn't have any of that.
Oh.
So when mommy was in Maryland, they didn't have a lot of the things they have here in Florida. So we couldn't get assistance in Maryland unless you paid a lot of money for assistance in Maryland. Once I got her here, it did take me about a year, but
Hmm.
I was able to get some things.
Okay.
Once I got her on Medicaid, um, we were able to get a caregiver.
Hmm.
We tried the whole daycare thing, that didn't work out. I think we only went once or twice. That didn't
Okay.
work. Um, but I was able to get a caregiver 4 hours, um, 3 times a week.
Okay.
So she would come in and she would do the showers and the bathing and things like that. Um,
And was it the same person?
it took a long time for us to get a good person.
Okay.
We had a good person, and then all of a sudden she just stopped showing up.
Hmm.
Something happened and she didn't come.
Hmm.
And we tried to get another person. I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. Then we got another person. Yeah, that's not going to work. Then we
Hmm.
got another good person. And then she got into an accident and she hurt her shoulder. She couldn't lift mommy anymore. So then that changed. And then we got another agency
Hmm.
and we got the perfect lady.
Hmm.
She 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 was she loved mommy to death.
Hmm.
And I didn't know how to cornroll. She cornrolled her hair and
Hmm.
did all of that kind of stuff. And she washed her hair and took amazing care of her. And when I was at that point, I was still working for a large company, and I was in and out of travel. So
Hmm.
the days that I had to travel, she would um, put days together and be there to get mommy out of the bed and get her changed. And she would be there to get her in her pajamas and change for the evening. My husband only had to feed her dinner,
Hmm.
and put her in bed. And then it just got to a point where we had to have a come to Jesus moment, so to speak, my husband and I.
Hmm.
And I was like, I can't do it anymore. I can't be away because they wanted me to travel so much and mommy needed so much care. I had to make
Hmm.
a choice what was more important to me. And he's like, babe, we'll make it work. Whatever we have to do, we'll make it work. And it's interesting because I've turned in my resignation one week, and not the next Sunday, but the Sunday after that. Pastor Jomo approached me and asked me, he was like, if you ever would want to work anywhere other than where you are, he said, I think I could use you full time.
Hmm.
I'm like, look at God. It's like Jonah in the belly of the whale. As soon as you get out of the fish, as
Hmm.
soon as you decide that I'm going to do what God has called me to do, God
Yep.
makes a way.
Yep. Exactly. Opened so many doors for you that you didn't even know that was even possible.
And it was just before COVID hit.
Okay.
And I worked for an organization where we did contract management services in like hospitals, universities, corporate offices, and things like that. And everything changed from my job perspective. They were letting people go.
Mm-hmm.
God was like, I'm gonna line this all up for you.
Yep.
And you know, COVID was going on. I was home. I was with mommy, and the caregiver. We were with her, and she was just amazing. You know, she did her test. She came in with her mask, and she still came in and took care of mommy in the midst of it all.
Mm-hmm. And see, and that's what's so important because it's difficult finding that perfect person, you know, the one that's really going to treat your mom like she's her mom. You
Right.
know, you can actually see the love that this person has for your parent, and the care that she's giving is just so loving. It's almost as if they become a part of the family. And if you lose that, it's very, very difficult to find that. And then another thing that you hit on that I think is important is people don't realize, I mean, the care is 24/7. It's not 8 to 5, 9 to 6. It is 24/7. And, you know, even though I know during COVID time, my sister was staying with my brother and my mom, she still had to work from home. So she still had to work. So it was hard to work and take care of her at the same time. But she did it, and but we all did it because I know when I would go up there, I would go up for like a month, 2 months at a time, and I'm there working, but I'm working and helping to take care of her as well.
Exactly.
And
You
then
got to
one of
plan around the meals,
ex-
giving the medication.
yep.
It once she got to not being mobile as much, it was
Mhm.
easier because I could turn the TV on and she would be occupied. Or, my mother used to read.
Mhm.
So I got her these little child books. They're like material books, but they have like teaching kids how to do zippers and
Mhm.
buckles and stuff like that. And she would go through this book all day, every day, and just play with the little gadgets that's in the book,
Mhm.
and that would keep her occupied.
Mhm.
And but you got to plan around everything. When you get
Yep.
up in the morning, making sure that the diapers are changed, you get them out to the bathroom, you prepare the meals, you sit them there, and same thing with bedtime. You got to. It really is like raising a child all over
It
again,
it really is. It
except for the
really is.
fact that the weight is so much different when you've got to, when the lifting and putting in the wheelchair and the lifting and putting on the toilet and putting in the shower and
Because you're putting a toll on your own body, especially if you're not doing it correctly. I know some of my siblings, they're bad because, just, I don't know, with my mom, it was like, if you try to lift her, she's going to do whatever she can so
to
you
keep
can't
you from
lift her.
picking her up.
Yes. Yeah. So that put on the extra weight. And, it's just little techniques you had to learn because if you didn't
Exactly.
do it the right way, but if you did it the right way, it was just so easy. And one thing
Right.
I learned that with my mom, before we could do anything with her as far as turning or moving her, we told her, you know, hey mom, we're gonna turn you over so we can change your diaper, okay? And she'll say, okay. And it's just so much easier because if you just went to turn her over, she's fighting against you because you haven't spoken to her. So, and I think sometimes, people tend to forget that. I mean, they're still there. You still have to engage. It's very important for you to engage with your loved one. You may not think they're listening, you may not think that they're understanding, but they do. I will never forget, my uncle came over to see her, and she was laying in the bed like she was asleep. We thought she was asleep. And we were talking about, I had my uncle talking about, some things when they grew up. And he had got to the point where he was trying to remember my grandma's last name. It just wouldn't come. And she just laying over there and she just telling us it's Moore. Her last name is Moore. And he's looking at me and I'm looking at her. Okay, so she is listening. She is paying attention, when we don't even know that she is. So
And
it's,
for
it's,
me,
it's very important to be aware.
and they are aware.
Hmm.
I I've always been very spiritual. You
Hmm.
know, God in my walk has been everything for me from a young age.
Hmm.
My mother never accepted Christ. And when my mother first came to me, my sister did home caregiving and all of that kind of stuff. When
Okay.
my mother first came to me, I could not understand why God put this on me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I was the one that was very business. I went to work, I did all of these things, but to have to change dirty diapers and to have all of the responsibility, the things you thought you could never do,
Hmm.
all of a sudden you can do because it's important. It's because what you have to do.
Hmm.
And you find strength and purpose in ways you never thought you could.
Yep.
And many a nights I had to pray and just be like, Father, just help me get through this.
Hmm.
I just I just need you right now. But in the journey of me having my mother, when she passed, I was always afraid that she would not go because I've never seen her accept Christ as her Savior. And I prayed about that. And God showed me in a dream that she was with him. And you know, my example in those years, her watching my walk, her
Hmm.
seeing me praise and worship in the living room,
Hmm.
still talking about who God is and
Hmm.
how amazing he is. She heard all of those things.
Hmm.
And in her unconscious way came to know who he was for herself.
Hmm.
And I was grateful for that revelation from him.
Yep.
That we good.
Yep.
And
God
that's
is
when I
amazing.
understood that she had to be with me.
Hmm. Yep. And look at how much, you know, you've grown from that, how much you're able to share from that whole experience. And, I feel the same way. My mom, she's all I know, my mom been saved all my life, being the youngest. But, um, she was grounded, she was rooted in the word. And she was one of those, the mothers of the church that's going to sit up there on that front pew and look at you as you come down the aisle. That's my mom. So one thing I did with her that I knew that she loved, I would sit with her and read scripture. And the thing that was so amazing to me is you have this individual whose memory is fading, right? But I'm sitting here reading these scriptures to her and she knows them by heart. I'm reading it, but she's saying it ahead of me. And I would often go back and say, Lord, thank you, because that word have I hidden in my heart, right? She knew the word. So I don't think it never left her. Although her mind may have been fading and stuff, the word never left her because it was always with her. So I just found that was just so It was so amazing. I had so many moments with her where it was like, wow, you couldn't say anything more than that
Yeah.
because it was unexplainable except for God, right? And we would sing to her, and she would listen to her, to the sermons, and that's how we normally got her to when she got to the point where she had already said she had taken a shower or bath. We would say, "Okay, mom, you want to go to church?" She always wanted to go to church. She always wanted to go to church, so she was going to get ready for church. So that's how we got her to go to the shower and do things, because you got to use something that that's going to drive you.
My mother would sing. She would, like, if you played the oldies,
Hmm.
then all of a sudden she would know the words.
Hmm.
It's like she wasn't speaking, but she could sing a couple of those words in the song.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
she would, her hands were closed, so she couldn't pop her fingers, but she would try,
Hmm.
so.
We would, I think the last Thanksgiving before she passed, all of us, all seven of us, was there uh, with her, and we came downstairs, and this was a good moment because sometimes she couldn't take all the noise, but this was a good moment. We went down there and we would start singing her songs, and I say her songs because she used to sing all the time in church, and all of a sudden she is singing a song. And we just recording, we just recording because we just can't believe it. But it's amazing how no matter what happens in your life, if you have the Lord, He's not going to leave you. He's always there. He'll never leave you. He'll never leave you or forsake you. And then a lot of people just think that when we transition from this life, let me change this. Some people think when we uh, death in this life is final. That's it. But it's not.
It's
You
not.
know, no, we transition to a better place. Those that are believers of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So it's
And,
just,
God knew that I needed that.
mhm,
I needed to know that transition was going to be was a good one for her.
mhm.
And he gave me that revelation, and
So
I'm
awesome.
grateful.
That's like the greatest gift,
Right.
you know. So, Phaedra, what would you say to caregivers that are going through the same things that we've been through? What advice would you give them?
Um, that it's okay to grieve. I didn't realize I was grieving my mother for who she was and who she wasn't anymore. Before she ever passed, I was already grieving because I missed my mom. But it's a journey that we have to take, celebrate those moments, those good ones, and be strong in those bad ones.
Mhm.
You know, Alzheimer's dementia is probably one of the hardest things to do, to watch, because they're never going to come back. And it's such a long journey
Mhm.
seeing them decline. With when you have a baby, you see them grow and brighten and do more things. It's so hard to see them become children again. But just trust God and be strong.
Mhm.
Find somebody you can talk to.
Now that's important. You have to have someone that you can vent. because you're going to need to. You're going to need to. You can't hold it in. You have to let it go in order for you to be able to move on yourself.
Right. And your life
That's
is going to change. It's just a season, though. Because my husband and I couldn't go out on dates or couldn't do anything for a season.
hmm
It's a season.
that's why it's very important as well for those that are married, that you and your spouse have an understanding of what's going on and the importance of what's going on, because it does change the family dynamic. So that's very important. So it's something, if you had your mother stand with you and he wasn't on the same page, that would have
Right.
caused more stress. So it's very important to have that cohesiveness.
You know what we started doing, eating later. I would put mommy to bed and then we would sit down and have dinner together. We weren't able to go out, so this was our way to find our time together. You
hmm
know, in the midst of it, you've got to find those things that work for you.
hmm Yeah, that is so very true. And it's going to take a while sometimes to figure it out, because you never know what will happen during this disease. It could be a good day, it could be a bad day, bad night, bad morning. You never know.
Right.
So you just got to be. Uh, it's kind of hard to say be prepared, but you got to be prepared for anything.
Fluid.
Yes, yes, yes. So, but Phaedra, I thank you so very, very much for joining us this evening.
I'm glad you had me. Thank you.
I am so glad you came. For some reason, for some people, it's difficult for people to talk about this disease and how it affects them and their family. But so many more people need to talk about it so people can become more aware. It's not something that's hidden. It's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, I remember coming up as a young girl, how families would take care of the elders. They're all there together. It wasn't putting them in a nursing home or whatever. They were at the house being taken care of. And I know everybody's situation is different, but that was so important to me. That was my mother. She brought me into this world. She took care of me when I was sick and dealt with all the foolishness that I put her through as I was growing up. And when the time came for her, where she wasn't well, I went in with arms open, hands wide open,
Right.
you know, because that's what unconditional love does.
My mother told us when we were growing up, don't ever put me in a nursing home. We knew that was our responsibility from birth.
hmm hmm but like I stated before, thank you so much for joining us, and I really appreciate it.
It was nice to talk about it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, everyone, thank you for joining us this evening. I once again thank Phaedre Parker for joining us today and talking about her mother, Joyce. I hope we were able to give you some information that you're able to use in your situations. As always, visit us at Dementia Diaries, a caregiver's journey on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn. We are with you every second and fourth Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thank you.